I'm coming. And you can't run.
You're a bee.
Huh?
You're a bee. But you're a bee.
Is my outfit okay for Jordan?
Yes, baby. But we will fix it something.
What do you mean we'll fix it?
In this latest episode, we saw our first 4 couples arrive to their destinations, and it gets real fast. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We're here to discuss 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days. I'm going to discuss all 4 couples, so I'm going to include the times just in case you want to skip ahead. There's a lot to cover, so we're going to jump straight into it. Before we do, as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, let's start with Rayne&Chidi. You guys, I hate that her name is spelled like Rayne. It does something to my brain when I have to be like, Renee. Anyway, it's time for Renee to get ready to leave to Nigeria. And she's, getting things together last minute. And she puts this big, huge perfume in her carry-on because I get she wants to smell good. His senses are strong. But when I saw that, I was like, TSA is going to grab that and throw it away. You're running a risk. I don't know if that's under 3.4 ounces. She's showing us her underwear that she's packing. It's textured on the side because she's ready for him to feel up on her. If only she knew what's ahead. And she's just like, I can't wait to do some lovemaking because I've never done lovemaking. And I don't know if she's just rewriting her story because she's no longer in love with the men that she's been with, but that's really sad. According to her, she's never had it. And then the next scene is her with her kids. And I'm like, ugh. And her kids are so sweet. They're so excited. They hug her goodbye, calling her brave. Her daughter is calling her brave for going this far for love. Her little boy is like, I hope that she's okay. I hope that she's protected. And I'm just like, you guys, she's leaving for 3 weeks. I just can't wrap my head around being a parent and leaving my kid for longer than a week, 2 weeks max. 3 weeks, I think, is pushing it, especially when they're that young. Granted, they have community, they have family. Again, it may be editing, but she didn't say anything motherly to them on her way out. She was just like, bye, make sure to collect the eggs. Not like, make sure you listen to your grandma, make sure you brush your teeth before you go to bed, take care of your brother. None of that. I thought it was really strange. All Renee's theories start coming up fast. We've already heard the alien story, but she's, on her way to the airport and she's like, I've never left this far. I mean, I barely go out to the store. And she was saying that she was scared that she's going to get butt worms. And the producer's like, butt worms? I know people get crazy stomach stuff when they go abroad, and I think that's normal. All that I'm picking up is that Chidi was right. She says everything that comes to her mind, and it's going to be a problem when she arrives. So she reminds us that she has a lot weighing on this trip because before Chidi, she had given up on love. And so for her, this is her last shot. And she feels like she was ready to give up on men and just wait for the aliens. And I'm like, okay, that checks out. They pan to Chidi in Nigeria and he's with his brother-in-law and he's just so giddy. He says that he's going to see the love of his life. He's like, am I dreaming? And finally we hear that his family described Renee to him. So he, has an idea of what her skin looks like, her hair, her body type. So he says that he's looking forward to feeling her beauty. Of course, the way that he's referring to feeling her and the way she intends is very different. So we see her land and she's making all these weird faces. I think it's nervous energy. But the first thing she says is that she's overwhelmed by all these people in the Lagos airport and that she prefers chickens. And I'm like, ma'am, I hope you don't say that to these people because I think that's a bit offensive. And so she's walking around and she's like, I know when I see Chidi, I know it's going to be him because he's just so sexy. And she proceeds to walk right past him. So the brother-in-law was prepping Chidi, to be out of his way for when they embraced. But he sees Renee walk past him. So he goes after her and he's like, hey, are you Renee? And I guess she didn't know what he looked like because she's like, yeah, Like, man, back off, you know, which I totally get. I don't want a strange man coming up to me, but he knows your name. He's like, oh, are you here for Chidi? She was like, yeah, like still very, you know, cautious. And he's like, you walk past him. And he's like, give me your bag so you can go to him. And again, I understand if you don't know who he is, it's like sus. The cameras are here, like it's fine. And so she turns, she sees Chidi. She goes in front of him, she touches his face, and he's like, oh my God. And he like melts into her. And it's the most childlike joy that was so beautiful. It was so beautiful to see. He was really just like so happy to have her, and like they just kept hugging and like kissing. They both were matching each other's energy in this moment. It was a nice hello. And she's jokes. She's like, you sure you're blind? And he takes off his glasses and shows his eyes. And he's like, my eyes can't see, but my heart can see. And I was like, one thing about Nigerians, and just in general, I feel like Africans, they're really poetic. They're poetic when they're saying charming things, and they're poetic when they're roasting you. It was so sweet, but you know, she's feeling self-conscious. She's like, I'm so glad that you kind of can't see me because I'm a bit sweaty. And my thing is, girl, he can smell you probably, right? But also, Chidi's like, it's okay, you're beautiful, and you're big. And she's like, yeah, I'm as tall as you. And he's like, yeah, but you're big. And I would literally crawl into a hole and disappear because no one wants to be called big, even if they're big. You know what I mean? Like, just, we don't have to say that. We don't have to use those words. But she's like, ah. And he's like, no, but I like it. Like, I think what he was meaning was that she wasn't like a petite woman. But she has like wider hips, and like I think he's into that. And he says it. He's like, I love your stature. It's perfect for me. And she keeps just calling him sexy and like rubbing on his arms. And they keep hugging like on and off. And the brother-in-law is like, okay, so like let's go. Let's hit it. So in the confessional, she's like, oh, I can't wait to get him used to my touch. I like can't wait for that tonight. And Chidi's like, because she has no idea, and I just hope that she doesn't turn up on him. He has not told her that they're not spending the night together, and I think that he should have. I really do, but whew. And I just don't think that it's gonna get easier in this trip because Renee is an eager beaver, okay? She is like, I can't wait, my man. But she also has this weird territorial energy that I think this is only the beginning and it's already ugly. She's walking along, you know, guiding him to the car, and she's like, I'm so happy that I get to be the one to guide him. I would be so jealous and so upset that his sister and his brother-in-law and other people got to guide him. Why do they get to do that? And I was like, this isn't about you. He has a disability. It doesn't matter who helps him as long as someone is helping him. Also, you're not there. What do you think? That he's going to be locked in a tower until you arrive to Nigeria? It was very strange. And so she's in this car ride, you guys, yapping. Just yapping away. And they show us like an imagery of what it would be like for Chidi. And it's like just light and just her yapping. And again, as I was saying, Nigerians have a gift in roasting you because he's like, Renee feels the need to fill the void of silence with her voice. And it's just so funny to me.
Renee's personality to constantly fill the silence with the sound of her own voice.
And so they arrive to the house, and as you know, they're staying in this lovely house that's owned by Chidi's sister and her husband. And as they're walking up, Chidi's like, oh yeah, we're gonna meet my sister. And she's like, oh, I have a bad feeling. She says that ever since she was little, intuitively, she's had this like bad feeling that she would have a bad relationship with someone's sister. And it hasn't happened with any of her exes. And she doesn't have any reason to believe that it would be with with Chidi's sister. But she just has a bad feeling. And I'm just like, girl, you were just a control freak. And I'm just worried that her weirdness is going to turn into being a Karen. and it's gonna be a problem. You are in these people's house. You need to show some respect, fix up your attitude. That is how I feel, okay? So she's coming in with this like dark cloud. I think she's the negativity, right? But she comes in and Chidi's sister is like, oh my God, and like embraces her with so much love, welcomes her into her home, says that she wants him to be comfortable. Like, she could not be any nicer. And she didn't have to welcome her into their home, okay? Because she's coming from America. I would have been like, girl, get you a hotel. I have a toddler to deal with. I don't need to deal with you trying to screw my brother, you know? But she didn't have that attitude. She was like, please. You know what she did instead? So Chidi shows his room and he says it. This is my room. And then he goes, this is my sister's room. And they've cleared it out so that you can be comfortable. I don't know what that says about me, but I would never give up my bed unless you're my mother or my grandmother. You can sleep with me if you want, like one of my girlfriends, or you can sleep on my couch. But to give up my room so that this lady that I've never met can stay there? No. That's a level of kindness that I don't think I've reached. And so as Chidi's showing her the room, you know, it's massive. She's like, oh, we'll have fun. No, you won't, babes. Because then we see her after her shower, which I want to call out. Usually in this show, people come with their airport funk and jump straight into bed and try to fool around. And it is disgusting every single time. I'm like, so I was very happy to see that even though she wasn't getting laid, she showered. So anyway, it's after her shower. She's in bed. Chidi comes by and he's like, my love, I would love to be laying down in this bed with you, but it's not happening. He breaks the news that, you know, he wants things to happen at the right time and he just doesn't, you know, think that it's right now. And you can see the disappointment in her face. And she's trying to be respectful of his wishes. Obviously, he can't see her face, but I'm sure he can tell by her silence and like her like body language that this was a shock to her. And again, I do believe that he should have told her ahead of time. I don't think that they're on the same page when it comes to intimacy. And I'm not sure what the talks were like before he got deeper in his faith, because she really came in thinking that they were going to get, you know, hot and bothered, and she feels rejected. And I think that I would feel that way too if there wasn't a conversation ahead of time, you know, because now you're just here and you're forced to accept, and you should accept, right? Like, things should be consensual. I always talk about eager consent. And if someone's not into it, like, you shouldn't push. Yeah, I think that there needs to be a larger conversation, and she just is giving me crazy eyes. So I fear that he's not going to get grace for more than 2 nights max. I don't think she's going to be cool with not being intimate the entire trip. So good luck, Chidi. We'll see you in the next time. Let's move on to Tigerlily&Adnan, okay, you guys? Finally, it's the day for her to go to Jordan to have the craziest 24 hours of her life. She quickly mentions that she left her kids with their daddy, and we see her with the Uber. The Uber's like, oh, are you moving? And she's like, no, I'm going on a trip. She packed like 3 suitcases for a week-long trip. It's like 6 days. But what she says is that she packed 3 wedding dresses. 3. Okay. She arrives to the airport and her besties, aka her glam squad, are there. And they're like, you sure? You ready? Okay. Tigerlily keeps downplaying the insanity of marrying someone that you don't know. Like, you haven't even gone to the park with this person. Like, you know nothing really. But finally, we meet Adnan. They show us 24 hours prior what his day was like in Jordan. He's with a bunch of his groomsmen, and it clearly looks like they're having some sort of bachelor celebration. I forgot that he was 22, and I'm quickly reminded because of the way that he acts. He's a model, he's super handsome, and he knows it, and I have a feeling that that's going to be really annoying really fast. He talks about his attraction for Lily, which I think that is going to be important to note, because they show us pictures of what he saw, which is her in bodycon dresses, shirts to show cleavage, things that are form-fitting. And he's like, yeah, she's just so beautiful. And those eyes, I knew I wanted her to be my wife. Okay? Keep that locked in. See him with his groomsmen and they're like at this like spa thing. And he's like, so what are you going to get me for my wedding gift? And one of them is like, a Viagra. And they're joking that he has to be ready because he's a virgin. So it's confirmed that he's a virgin because of his Islamic faith. And he, you know, believes that he should be intimate with his wife. And so that is why he's rushing this. They have 6 days to make it happen, and he wants to make it happen badly. So we see him get a haircut with one of his friends. I think this is his brother. And they're like, so why her? Why now? Why are you doing it in this way? Like, it's fast for everyone. They're like, you haven't met before. And he gives the same basic answer that Tigerlily was giving with like, when you know, like, why waste time? And conveniently, the brother is like, have you guys talked clothes? Like, you know, and Adnan is like, well, that's complicated, but yeah, I've made some requests and she's followed. And the brother's like, well, you know, she's American, like, what if, you know, you guys have some conflict about it? He's like, no, she can't reject it. She has to do what I say because I'm the husband. Basically that kind of energy. But here's the thing, and this is my problem with a lot of interfaith couples on the show. I get that your beliefs are important, right? But you went out of your way to find someone that lives their life differently. You fell for her because of what she looked like. And I think that it is unfair and cruel to see someone as they are and be like, I want to lock that in and I want to change all of that for my benefit. You didn't have to pick her. There are so many beautiful women that follow your religion, follow just in general modesty, something that is different. I feel like Tigerlily gives Kardashian wannabe. She's never going to be modest in the way that you see it. You know what I mean? He's showing his age in the way that he gets so defensive when they're asking him these questions like, you know, there's no grounds for a conversation or compromise. He's just really stubborn. And I think that that could be a character thing, but I also think that it comes with age. They don't want to see past what they have in mind. And this is going to be a problem for Tigerlily because he's just like not up for compromise. He's just like, she needs to obey me. And so this lady left a marriage that she refers to as a prison only to drop into this? Like, why do people do this to themselves? Get people that align with your morals, your lifestyle. You don't have to go through this kind of hardship. If religion and everything that comes with it is a deal breaker for you, Tigerlily should not be your first pick. Also, if you are triggered by feeling like you're being controlled by a man that has to be the head of the household, a Muslim man would not be my first pick. How do those align? I feel like this isn't anything more than lust. So they pan back to the plane ride, and I guess it's like 30 minutes before they land, and Tigerlily starts getting glam on the plane. If I were on this plane, I would be so annoyed because the last thing that I want is someone's backside to be on the aisle for 30 minutes in my way. I just don't need that. Like, they're pulling out curling irons, freaking eye masks, they're doing her makeup. I was so annoyed and I was like, you should just leave that for when you land. Like, why inconvenience everyone else? You guys, when they land, she stays in the freaking airport bathroom for an hour and a half longer, getting more things done. Giving Darcy on steroids, okay? Like, Darcy was just freshening up. No. She continued her glam. She did the freshening up. She had a whole outfit change, outfit alteration. It was crazy. And the whole time, Adnan and his brother are waiting outside, nervous because she hasn't sent a text. He hasn't sent a bat signal. He's just worried, anxious, because he's trying to get married stat. So finally, after an hour and a half, she comes out. She's fully covered, but it is like fitted. It shows her curves. For me, that's modest. I think she looks great, but I knew that this would be an issue. They embrace. They, of course, cannot really be too lovey-dovey because it's against his religion, but he gives her, you know, a kiss on the forehead. They hug. He says hello to everyone, and she's like, "Is my outfit okay?" And he's like, "It's okay. We can fix things." And she's like, "Oh." It's already starting, you guys. But he says hi to her, you know, glam squad, and you can see that he feels away. And he says that the only reason he's allowing her to be friends with this guy is because she said from the beginning that they've been friends for over 20 years, but that moving forward, she cannot have any male friends. She looks so smitten, and I get it. He's attractive. Middle Eastern men are so beautiful. He's tall. He, you know, looks like he smells good. He has a nice car. Like, I get it. I get the allure. But girl, you have no idea what's ahead. So we see them drive to the hotel because the plan is to drop off the glam squad at the hotel, and then they're going to go straight to their signing ceremony for their wedding because they're not going to be a part of it. Car ride is awkward, and I don't know if it's because they have nothing to talk about or if they just would rather leave it, you know, for when they're together alone. But the people in the back, her glam squad, keep trying to fill in the silence because it's so awkward. And they start asking him about his family. They're like, "Oh, so like, how many siblings you have?" And so he says that he's one of 15. And when they ask him how many kids he wants, he says he wants 5. And this is news to Tigerlily. She's like, "Babe, you didn't tell me that. You must have forgotten to ask when you forgot to ask him how he is with money. Remember that?" More revelations are spilled because then they ask him, you know, where he has lived. And he says that he's lived in other places, but he always comes back to Jordan. He can't imagine leaving Jordan because all his loved ones are there. And Tigerlily is like, "Well, what are you going to do? Like, we're obviously going to go to America." And he's like, "Yeah, but, you know, I'll come back often." And she's like, clearly, again, news to her. She had no idea that he had plans of coming back so often. We don't know how much he makes as a model. So I don't know if Tigerlily is being a sugar mama currently. Her money is going to be depleted quickly because trips to Jordan are not cheap. And it looks like he wants to come like every other month or something. So they arrive to the hotel and she says there's just not enough time to iron these things out. So we'll just talk about it later. If you have things that are bringing up doubt for you, this is the time to ask. You said that it took you 4 years to finalize your divorce with your ex-husband. Do you want to go through the same thing? The love goggles are massive and they're on tight, you guys. She says bye to her glam squad and the woman that's there was like, "Are you guys sure that you want to do this right now? You sure you don't want to go on a first date maybe?" And they're like, "No, yeah, we're going to do it." And she's like, "Okay, I hope you know what you're doing." And she is like shook that Tigerlily's doing this. But they leave. So we see Tigerlily get ready for this ceremony. He is rushing her and she's like annoyed. But they're doing that thing where she's like, "Babe, do you know how to do makeup? Okay then." Like that, like passive aggressive fighting. It's so strange, their dynamic. But we find out that they're staying at this hotel because he lives with his brother and they want some privacy, you know, because they'll be able to spend the night together once they get married, which is why they're trying to rush through this. She comes out fully covered and again she asks him what he thinks and he's like, "It's fine. We'll fix things in the future. It's still too tight on your body." And my thing is, this is as modest as she's going to be. I'm sorry to break it to you, Adnan. And so she's put off by his hesitation and she's like, "Well, how was I supposed to know? You do some research, you ask questions." I don't see, I don't get how she's acting so naive at her age. She's over 20 years his senior. So they're on the car ride to the ceremony, and this is where it occurs to her to ask him what she can expect at the ceremony. Will she be able to understand it? And he's like, "Yeah, there's going to be a translator there for you, and it's going to be fine. My mom is going to be there, my brothers are going to be there." And again, this is news to her. She's like, "Oh my God, it's a big deal that I'm going to be your mom and your family. I'm so nervous. Like, I wasn't prepared for this." Meeting his family is the least of your worries. You are getting married. You were going to meet them inevitably. I think that she's seeing this as a big deal for the wrong reasons. I think that she's angry a little backwards. Of course, she should have met his family. And of course, they would be there. They're in their home turf. Like, I think that it would be weird if they didn't show up, you know, just like I would expect her family to show up if they got married in the States. So she's upset because she's like, all of this is happening without my notice. And I think that it's happening without your notice because you've allowed it to be like this. You've allowed it to go this far. You haven't asked any questions. I don't know what to tell you, girl. I don't know how you guys felt watching this, but the whole time I was like, Tigerlily, you need to woman up. You are over 20 years older than him. Speak up. Like, set your boundaries, plant your feet, and say what you gotta say. I just feel like you are willingly making the same mistakes again. And for what? What is the reason? Let's move on to Lauren and Faith. So as you guys remember, Lauren is already on his way to the Philippines and he is anxious because he's like, I really want her to accept me. There's a lot riding on this trip. I hope that she can accept my finances or the lack of. And then he says that he's wanted a relationship with a ladyboy ever since he was a child. And it just feels so icky when he says it. I also just feel like there's a lot of denial about what his sexuality is. I'm not here to clock him. I'm not here to, you know, make him accept who he is. I just think that he's going to find so much peace when he does, and that what he says will sound less fetishy when he does. Because right now it sounds all types of wrong. They pan to the Philippines and we meet Faith, and she is a boss babe, okay? We see her on the job. She's a housekeeping manager at a hotel, and she gets to live there because she works there. And because of that, she's able to help her family. So she sends money back home. Again, Lauren, that means her money is spoken for. But aside from housekeeping managing, she also does magic tricks. She does makeup. She performs. So she's a busy girl. They show us pictures of her as a child, and she says that the Philippines is conservative. So, you know, it took her some time to accept herself, but she immediately found outlets. There's a huge ladyboy community in the Philippines. And there's also like this really big famous pageant. She isn't on any hormones and she hasn't done any surgery because it is expensive. But she says that right now she would consider getting boobs. She shares that she's been single all of her life and that Lauren is her first boyfriend. And I wish so much different for you, Faith. Because I think that he wants her for all that she can give him and not for who she really is. And she just deserves more. She deserves to be seen fully. Maybe that'll change when we see them together. I don't feel that way. We see her with some of her friends and they hype her up because she finally has a boyfriend. And they ask her if they've, talked intimacy. She's like, we've sent some pictures, but I want to take it slow because I feel like a lot of people reach out to ladyboys and they only want sex. And I want something more. I want to make sure that that's what he wants as well. And she's under the impression that he's only visiting for a month to meet her loved ones. She has no idea of what he's plotting. And so they're like, oh my God, he's an American. Like, would you go to America to live with him? And she's like, if the opportunity came, like I would seize it, of course. I think that, we could do really well together in America. And they're like, is he stable? Can he take care of you? And she's like, well, yeah, because he has so many jobs and he works so much. I think that we would be fine. She has no idea. She's in for a rude awakening because it sounds like they haven't had like a real conversation. Like, has she not noticed that he doesn't have a set place to live? That would be the first indicator. And she says something about him not being stingy with money. And I wonder if he has helped her out. I just don't see how when he was like raving about a $50 engagement ring. I don't know. Faith again talks about how, people really only seek out ladyboys for sex, and, she's really in love with Lauren. She thinks that it can be something real, so she hopes that it's the same on his end. And so we see Faith getting ready to pick him up at the airport, and we see her do her full glam. We see her do her makeup, get her corset on. Looks great. She looks great. Lauren is like, oh my God, I'm so nervous to see her. I'm arriving to the Philippines and I look like a hobo. And there's so many things that I want to say about that, but I'm going to keep it to myself. Faith is sweating bullets, okay? And I can only imagine in the summer, doing my makeup is a waste of time because it just like melts off. But you see her like patting it on. She's like pulling out a brush, trying to make sure everything's locked in. It's so funny, so relatable. He comes out and they hug, and it's sweet until it isn't, because they're like this, and he's like, you can see that he's like sniffing her. Did you guys hear that? And I also heard like a little moaning. It was very, very weird. But I was trying really hard to look past all of that because I'm like, Faith is happy in this moment, right? And they're hugging for so long that they start like swearing. And I thought that was sweet. She does a magic trick for him with a rose. And it's very endearing. But at the confessional, she's like, yeah, he's really sweet. I just hope that doesn't change. She's keeping her eye out for consistency, making sure that he means what he says. And I just feel like she's going to struggle when she notices that he is thirsty for intimacy because of what she can offer. So we'll be keeping up with them. Let's go to the last couple, which is Brian and Ingrid. So we see Brian, and he has like a series of flights to be able to get to where she is in Brazil. But he tells us a little bit about what his experience is like at the airport. He says that there's a lot of eyes on him, which makes him kind of like show off his skills and like speed on by. I really love this guy's confidence. You can tell that he's always been a playboy, and these wheels are not going to change that. But we pan to Brazil, and we finally meet Ingrid. She's this hottie on a horse, has a beautiful 2-year-old, a beautiful 12-year-old. But we get a little bit of her backstory, and she tells us that while she was pregnant, or I think shortly after she gave birth, her partner abandoned her. So she found herself a single mother, unemployed, during the toughest time in her life and in the world, obviously. She says she persevered, and she's out of that moment in her life, and her kids are her priority, and whoever steps into her life needs to be able to understand that. And that's when she met Brian on a dating site, and she thought he was really cute, really interesting. And I'm guessing none of his pictures included the wheelchair, because she didn't find out that he was in a wheelchair until like a few conversations in. And she was shocked. One, because she never really like interacted with someone that was in a wheelchair, and also she's never dated someone that was on it. So she just didn't know what to expect. We get a little more insight on how in denial she is. We saw last episode that she hadn't told her family really. Well, she hasn't told her best friend either, because we see her at a horse stable with her friends, and they're like, oh, like, are you nervous? Like, and her friend is like, oh my God, so what are you guys gonna do in your town? Like, there's nothing to do. And Ingrid, I don't think grasps how limited things are going to be, because she's like, oh, like, we'll take a stroll. We'll go to the beach. If he could do it, let's see. And her friend is like, what do you mean if he could do it? And Ingrid goes, oh, I didn't tell you? The friend is like, you didn't tell me what? And Ingrid is like, oh yeah, he's in a wheelchair. And the friend is like, come again? Yeah. And she played it off, but like she didn't tell her friend on purpose, just like she didn't tell her family. And it's gonna get very real soon, and it's not something that you casually forget to tell your people, you know? Also, another thing that came up was that her friend was like, so what, like you're looking to go to the US? And again, Ingrid is playing coy about it. And I love that her friend was like, you obviously would go because otherwise you wouldn't be looking for gringos. So I'm guessing Ingrid has a preference. As long as it's consensual, I have a feeling that Brian would want her to come to the US, but she has 2 kids and that's going to get complicated. The friend does ask Ingrid, does your family know? And Ingrid says that her mother knows, but her dad doesn't. And I don't think her dad knows anything at all because she's like, oh, you know, he's hard-headed and I'm just afraid that they're not going to accept him or understand him. This is giving Thais all over again. Like, you're a grown-ass woman. Speak up for yourself. Say what you gotta say. And whoever's with it is with it. Whoever is not is not. I don't think that this is a comfortable environment to bring someone new in. It just doesn't feel fair, you know? She says that she's afraid of heartbreak. We've heard Brian say the same thing. It sounds like they want the same things, so they should get on the same page. Ingrid starts her journey to meet up with Brian at the airport, and it looks like a long one because she has like a 3-hour bus ride. So this poor man, aside from flying 2 planes, he's gonna have to take a 3-hour journey. It's a long one, okay? But they're staying at a hotel that night so they can get, you know, some rest. She's anxious about what's ahead because I think it's finally clicking that this is their new reality and she's gonna have to come face to face with it. And so Brian lands and he's exhausted, but he's being so cute. He's like, I wanna put my best foot forward. I need to get my posture straight. I need to like stride in really well. But this man is managing his chair as well as his cart that has the luggage. I was like, can anyone help him? And maybe he feels comfortable, you know, handling everything. I just feel like that is exhausting. I was exhausted watching him, but this man is an athlete. Ingrid is in the bathroom and she does a whole outfit change. She slips into this sexy dress. She's like, I want to look hot for my man. Darcy has daughters, okay? Because everyone is following her formula. But I did think it was very sweet when she was looking at herself in the mirror and she was like, be brave, be brave. Ingrid is waiting for him and you could see that she's really like, oh my God, like he's in a wheelchair, like I've never handled that. And I feel like these are conversations that they should have had beforehand because she's literally starting at 0 and they were together for 2 years. I feel like he could have filled in the blanks about a lot in that time. Definitely going to be a bigger learning curve than there had to be. And I know that Brian didn't want to overwhelm her. And I know that he has a fear of like, you know, her leaving him because of this. But I think that you have to be prepared because this is just too big to ignore. The fact that she's this clueless after dating for 2 years is kind of embarrassing. But that aside, he comes out, she sees him, she gives this look of like, and smiles. And I don't know if that was sympathy. I don't know if that was like the shock hitting her. But I do believe that she was happy to see him and he was happy to see her. And I love that he can communicate with her in her mother tongue. And like she sits on his lap and they like embrace for a long time. And it's just so like, it's just so romantic. We see them at their confessional and she says that seeing him in a chair didn't change anything about how she felt about him. And he's like hugged up on her. And I hope that it stays sweet, but given the trailer, I don't think that it will. We will be keeping up with these two. We'll be keeping up with all of them. I think that finally next episode, we'll get to meet some of the new couples. Really looking forward to that because it looks so chaotic. I would love to know what you guys thought about this episode. Do let me know in the comments. Is there a couple that you're rooting for? Is there someone that you want to end immediately? For me, that's Lauren and Faith. I don't think that he deserves her. Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.